Welcome back. I think we're making good progress. Next step, I'm almost ready to add support so that when a request comes in, we can call DynamoDB. But before we do that, I would like to make it easier. I'd like to make it easy to run locally on my machine so that I can step through the code. You know, if this is deployed to the cloud, I've got limited ability to do debugging. It's much easier if I can do some local debugging sometimes. So here's what we're going to do. Remember that we made this change here, and this basically, this changed it so that it works up in the cloud. Now we're going to almost undo that. We're going to say that we have another. We're going to say that we have another way to call our code. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to add a new file. Let's call it run locally. That works for me. .js. Okay, run locally. What is it going to do? Well, it's going to pull out the app from this function. So handler.js does a bunch of stuff, including the definition of the app itself. So I can pull out this app and I can use it from my run locally file. So how do I do that? I'll go require app equals, sorry, my mistake. Const app equals require, and this is in the same directory as everything else, so it's at the root, and it's the handler.js. Don't need the JS now that I think about it. And in fact, just to be a little more explicit, I'll just call this handler. Cool. So this is everything that's been exported from the handler.js file. Now, if I just want the app part, and that's what I want, I just want the app part, I can do destructuring. I can say app. So I've surrounded it in curly braces, and that's saying, hey, that object, I'm looking for the app parameter, and that's what I want to pull into here. So I've got my app parameter. What can I do with that? Well, just think about it. What we did before was, the thing at the bottom of the file was app listened, and we told it what port to listen on. I think it was, actually we can do any port we want. It previously was 3000, and just I'll put a little log message here just mentioning that if we hit this code, console.log listening at port 3000. That works. Okay, so if we run our application locally, if we tell our debugger to run this instead of handler, then everything should work. So that's what we want to do next, is we want to tell Visual Studio Code. So I'm using Visual Studio Code. This next step is dependent on your environment. If you're running it from the command line, you can just go node, and you can say run locally, right? So if you're just running it locally, you can do that kind of thing. I want to run it from Visual Studio Code, so I'm going to go up to my menu. I'm going to do the run menu. I'm going to say add configuration. So that's run, add configuration, and what do we want? I want Node.js. Cool. Oh, and it even figured it defaulted it to the right thing, which was it noticed I was in the run locally file and says, hey, that's probably what you want to do, which is exactly correct. So let's give this a shot. I think if we just hit F5 to run, it should actually start and be listening on port 3000. Listening on port 3000. Yeah, that sounds good. Let's just refresh my memory the way this works. So currently we've got that get on the endpoint called hello. So I'll bring up Postman, and let's do a new one. Let's say localhost 3000 hello. Let's try doing a get. And we got back a response, hello world. So in fact, if we go over here, oh, actually we didn't do anything that would dump out any console log messages. So that's about right. So yeah, we're running locally now. If I want to, I can go into my handler, for example, and I could put a breakpoint right here. There, I got my breakpoint here. So now I'll send it again. This time I hit my breakpoint and I can step through the code. And I don't need to step through the code, but that's the important change that I wanted to make. Yay, okay. So now I can run locally if I want to. And in fact, that's probably the default. I'll just leave it like that. Of course, when I deploy this code, it's set up, it's the serverless thing here. It just knows that, hey, I've got these Lambda functions, and if someone calls this one here, call the right endpoint. So we're kind of set up perfectly. Okay, that looks great to me. I'll stop it here. And in the next video, we will add the endpoint for actually getting data from DynamoDB. Thank you.